Coach Simmons, what is your overall impression of this class?
Well, we're pretty thrilled about the class, and it's a pretty diverse class as far as positionally, certainly diverse geographically. We feel we were able to look at the right fit for the kids that were from our state and from our region, and we were able to branch out and touch upon kids that are across the country and internationally. And at the end of the day, they need to be able to fit what we're doing here, and I think all these kids, they do fit the culture that we're promoting, and we're looking forward to them having a great experience here. So it's a good start, and we feel really, really positive about it.
Do you recruit to fill holes from the class that leaves in the preceding fall, or do you just try to compile the best class possible without as much thought as to where they would fit in?
I think it's a combination of filling by position and recruiting the best players. Sometimes it might angle to one of those sides or the other depending on the recruiting year. We certainly want to be able to address needs that we have for the teams positionally going forward, but we also want to bring in the best players. So at times you'll see a hybrid of that type of philosophy going into it. But at the end of the day, they got to fit what we're doing. They got to see Oregon State as a great place to have a wonderful experience. And they do have to fit certain needs. I think a lot of times versatility will serve a major role in whether or not we go forward with a player. And so we feel we've got some kids here like we have on our team that are versatile. And moving forward, we can cover a lot of different spots and still bring in the quality.
How does international recruiting work? How do you find a player like Bjorn from Sweden or like a player this year from Norway?
The international recruiting it's an interesting scenario, and I think just because of technology and social media, it's really become much smaller. Thinking about recruiting overseas, 10 years ago, it was like this monumental task, just because communication was so far back behind where it is now, and now you can get on any social media outlet and legally have a conversation with a kid. And so they're more in tune also with things that are going on in the United States. And while there's still a bit of a disconnect with university and high-level sports that would not happen overseas, a lot of the kids are understanding that that's an opportunity and an option in the United States. So throughout many, many, many years of growing a network, I've been able to find some trustworthy sources that are able to keep me in the loop, much like coaches that have trustworthy sources that keep them in the loop stateside. So we were very fortunate to get a talented player like Bjorn, and moving forward, we want to make sure that we have the coverage that we need to fill in holes.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about this before, but do you look for a player to fit your particular system, or is there a thought that you can mold a recruit to fit what would be defined as Oregon State's brand of soccer?
Well, we're trying to look for kids that are going to raise the bar for us. And so if raising the bar means, we can morph our system to play a little bit differently, but yield us more wins, then that's what we're going to do. But our identity here is it's a working class identity. We're gonna come to work and make no bones about it, and that's going to be the backbone of what we do. Now, from there, it could have a little bit of a difference from year to year, depending on our returning class. Depending on the kids that we bring in. Some kids that we bring in catch on earlier than others, and so based on those situations, we might attack it a little bit differently. But the backbone is always going to be working class, and that's who we are.
Okay, so let's get into the class of 2013 here and start out with David Bolt.
David Bolt is a very versatile player. One of the things that caught our eye with David is that he's two-footed, and he's able to strike a ball equally with both feet, and that serves a person well. That versatility piece I was talking about of getting on the field. We think David can do very, very well at the outside back position. I know he has played a left back a lot for his club team, Real Colorado, and so coming into it, I think that he's going to really be pushing for those spots I know just this last spring, his coach, Lauren Donaldson, had put him in center midfield. And so that shows the trust that his coaches have in him of playing some key critical spots. So Dave is going to be a welcome addition to what we're trying to do, especially in that back line and maybe in the midfield line.
You were able to acquire a couple of guys from the Portland Timbers Development Academy, Spencer Clava and Mitchell North, if you could talk about those two.
Well, first of all, this was Portland Timbers' first year in the academy, and it's such a vital relationship that we have with the Timbers group, period. And so for us to secure a couple of their top players during their first year, I think was vital for us. Spencer Clava, we had actually ID'd Spencer before the academy kind of came into formation, and we saw him play in a number of games where he's just a hard-nosed worker forward that can create a lot out of nothing, and very honest in how he works, and he's got a really good knack of scoring goals, and he kind of embodies that hard work, bring your lunch pail to work type of guy. And so we were really pleased about that. He's a Wilson High School kid. We had Chris Harms, who just graduated, was a Wilson High School kid, so it was nice to get that familiarity. Mitchell North comes from Southern Oregon, so Mitchell actually had relocated to Portland for his senior year to be with the academy team. And so we were thrilled that we're going to get a Southern Oregon kid and have representation from Southern Oregon. And he, as a goalkeeper, has a tremendous amount of presence for a young person. His communication skills are very natural. He commands a back line very well. He's a big, rugged kid, good shot blocker, really fierce competitor, hates to lose. And so having him in, he's really going to challenge our goalkeeper situation and lift that bar is what we need. And it's good that we have a kid that's from in-state. And so we got the Portland area kid, and now we got the Southern Oregon kid that are really going to be good benchmarks for future Timbers players that we look at going forward.
Let's move to the international player that we spoke about earlier, Olay San from Norway.
Olay is a very typical box-to-box midfielder, and we first were able to evaluate Olay and playing for a very good second division side in Norway. And I've had a lot of experience with the Norwegian leagues past 10, 15 years, and so I got a clue that this kid was pretty good, and very similar to Bjorn, had some options to maybe go to the professional side, but wanted really to look at getting his education, and he knew some people before him that had gone to the States. And so for us, looking at Olay, he's got an edge to him that kind of fits college soccer, in the States. And he's very, very clean on the ball, super high discipline person. And he's kind of already a professional in the way he goes about business. So I think he'll hit the ground running as far as his attitude and his approach. But like any kid, especially international kids, they're going to have to take that bit of time to adjust. So with Olay, going to enroll in the spring, that's going to give him a head start going forward and give him a chance to get acclimated sooner than later.
Next player is Devonte Small, who played with Classics Elite in San Antonio.
Devonte Small he's a military kid, and I'm always partial to military kids. He actually lived in the Northwest, up in the Seattle-Tacoma area for a little bit, and I'm sure one of his folks were stationed up there. And he now lives in San Antonio. But we knew about Devonte during his time in Austin when he played and trained with Kyrie Shelton with Lone Star Soccer Club. And early on, Devonte was tapped up to be on the U14, U15 national pool for our country. And you can see why. He's very, very quick. He's a winger, runs at players, likes to unbalance them and push by them. So he fits in that mold that we like to see with our wide guys, and he's got that familiarity with a guy like Kyrie who's already on the team, and he's hungry to compete. And so bolstering our attacking options is something that we always want to have. We always want to have too much firepower, and Devonte's going to bring that, especially on the wide channels.
Jonathan Stadler plays for current United States national team assistant coach Martin Vasquez. Can you talk about him and where that background may help him here?
Absolutely. Johnny's he's actually got a very unique story. He's from Portland. He's a Lincoln High School kid from Portland that decided to go and attend Real Salt Lake Academy in Casa Grande, and so he's been living in Arizona with the academy down there for a couple of years, and we really saw his game blossom. And he's been exposed to playing a different style. Martin Vasquez, who you mentioned, our assistant U.S. coach, really puts those kids under a lot of pressure to keep the ball and keep the ball on the table and play and move it forward. And so he's really been exposed to that style of play, and I think it's given a lot of good balance because John's been a very disciplined, hard-nosed defender, and now you've seen a little polish to his play, which is I think is tremendous. And so now Johnny gets to come back to his home state, and he gets to be here and be close to family, and we're thrilled that he's going to be back in Oregon. I think that he can play a number of positions in the back. He can play center defender. He can play outside back. He's just a super competitor, very disciplined, and we're happy we're getting the guy that's coming back that has that Northwest Oregon edge with that good, clean polish to his play.
Much like Devonte Small, Michael Steele is a former U.S. Youth National Team player. He's an attacker that you say can score goals. And can you talk about him for a little bit more?
Yeah, Michael was somebody we really identified early on through the Seattle Sounders Academy. And one of the things with Michael, he's very similar to Devonte as far as running at players. There are certain things you can teach a player. One of those things you can is the confidence and the ability to run at players to open the game up. And so Michael has got the ability to run at players, make the final pass, score goals off of usually coming out of the wide channel coming in. But I've seen him play underneath the striker, so he's got some versatility there. And then, recently looking at his ability to defend, a lot of times these attacking players, don't like to defend, and I think Michael has an honesty that he's going to get out there and work on both sides of the ball. So that's an exciting piece because if you're an attacking player and you defend well, you're probably going to get more chances for yourself and your team. So that side of his game is developed, and we're happy to again have another wonderful attacking piece coming in to raise our attack going forward in the next year.
Next up is Jacob Zuch, who played for the Boise Nationals.
Jacob is an athletic specimen. In Boise, they've always had very good club teams, and he plays for the Nationals. Plays for at one point played for Co Michelson, who's a good friend of mine, and they maybe don't have the exposure sometimes. There's no academy teams out there, but man, there's some good players. And Jacob is certainly one of the better athletes that are going to be coming out of the whole West Coast, in my opinion. And I've seen him basically command a back line, score goals, help his team win on set pieces with headers. I know at times coaches put him up front to go score goals if they're down, and he's done that. So he's one of those type of guys, and what a tremendously responsible young man. And we're feeling we're getting a really high-level athlete, but a super person. But when it comes down to it, I think he fits into the plan that we're trying to promote. And his better days are in front of him, and so he's really excited to be here and be a Beaver. And for us to have a guy like that who's that athletic, we can play a higher line because he can chase people down, and he's intelligent enough to drop off and play low pressure defense and can do some things on restart. So we're pretty excited about Jacob.
And finally, Brendan Woodfull, who comes from Toronto FC, who many Oregon State fans are now more familiar with because of Emery Welshman's draft selection. Can you talk about Brendan's game?
Yeah, well, Brendan Woodfull was another young man that was living away from home. So Brendan's from Windsor, which is just right across the the bridge there from Detroit, and was 4 hours away from Toronto, but Toronto FC had identified him a couple years ago and brought him in with a couple other guys to live in Toronto, train, and do their academy. And you know, last year he was their leading goal scorer. It was Toronto FC's leading goal scorer in the academy. Well, as they move forward, wasn't going to get offered a contract, and so now he's looking at university as a possibility. Well, the timing is such that Emery Welshman, who's an Ontario native, gets drafted by Toronto FC, and there's a great buzz of orange and black and the Beavers around Ontario, and we were on to Brendan early enough that we had some conversation, some familiarity with him. He's a goal scorer, and this kid is a pretty solid athlete. You know, he's one of the finalists in the 100-meter, 200-meter sprints in all of Ontario, and so he's got some natural attributes, and I've seen him score some goals in some big-time games, and certainly he's going to address some of the areas that we feel that we can always improve on, and you know, if he can, you know, do what Emery did, I think he'll be very, very pleased, as we will be. But coming in, it's good to get shoes filled from another Ontario native, and we're certain that he'll try to do his best to repeat as Emery did.